welcome to the Earth Feels podcast.
I'm Rose.
And I'm Christine.
Welcome to Earth Feels, the podcast for people feeling overwhelmed by the endlessly gloomy climate news.
Where every week we have soul-based conversations about climate change and explore the idea that climate change may be happening for us as much as it is happening to us.
If you are ready to shift your focus and secure the future for our kids and our grandkids, then this is the podcast for you.
And yes, we do know how to spell.
Hello, Christine.
Hi, Rose. Long time no see.
Yes. Got 8 more days here in the United States before we enter a new paradigm.
Drum roll.
Woohoo!
We'll see. I guess even no matter who gets elected, you're very optimistic saying you're going to be entering a new paradigm. I think you will be not the beginning of the end. That was 45. The beginning of the shift, the real shift, which we've been shifting into. Anyways, as I said last time, you're an optimist. May it be so. The beginning of a new paradigm. And if Kamala Harris gets elected, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Kamala is elected, yeah. Or when they're elected, when Joe and Kamala are elected, Kamala will be the first woman in line for presidency.
First black
woman, but first woman.
Yeah.
You know, and how it feels like there's such a we're on this precipice. We're standing at the threshold. We're in the doorway. Are we going to teeter over or are we going to fall backwards? You know,
you're in the birth canal.
Back and forth. Yeah. Yes, we're in the birth canal. Let me out.
Painful. Ow.
Yeah. Let me out. No, I want to stay in here forever. Yeah.
But yes, change is hard. So next Wednesday, is that what we're talking about?
Next Tuesday. And hopefully we know by that night, but the US is all kinds of records are being broken about early voting, and we still have 8 days to go. So I got my vote on. Most people I know have voted already. And whatever happens, I think the fact that people are more engaged, is this what it takes to be more engaged? Evidently it is. Evidently it is. But that's a good thing. You know, it's when people have been sleepwalking for so long, a democracy is a participatory system. It has to be. And the statistics are that less than 60% of people come out to vote. And just think about that. How many other countries, they're fighting? How many of our forebears fought so that we would have this right to vote? And then people are like, my vote doesn't matter. So
we should post on our website, if we haven't posted on our Facebook page, there's a video out there of people waiting in line, but and I cannot believe the lineups that I've seen to vote. We had a provincial election here over the weekend.
Okay.
And people were posting, it took me 5 minutes. Well, it took me 10 minutes. I didn't see anybody post. I don't know if I even saw 10 minutes. Like, that's the way it should be in a functioning democracy. You bring in your card. And even if you don't have a card, you have your ID. So the lines that I've seen for voting, it's crazy. But people in the US, people are, the amazing thing is that people are motivated enough to stand in line for 4 hours. Did you see the picture of the woman? It was a black woman and her toddler, I believe it was, a small child, and she was waiting in line, and she actually had a plastic bubble. It was like an umbrella, but it went right down through her waist that she had, because she knew she was going to have to wait so long, and she didn't want to put herself or her son at risk. But there was no way she was not going to vote.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about people's determination to vote this time, that they're willing to stand in line for so long. And hopefully we're looking at some big changes. I mean, like I said, we're standing at the precipice. This, it will be a domino effect. It will be a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of good things coming. Ooh, yeah. I like that feeling. May it be so, as you said.
Yes.
So, talking about our question for today. Our question for today is, how is our consumer-driven society priming us for disaster? And that's a little bit of a shout out to our billionaire friend, Mr. Bezos. So Prime, let's just start with him. So Prime had its Prime Day this year, which is
Amazon had it.
Sorry. Yep. Amazon had its Prime Day this year. Amazon Prime Day 2020. And interestingly enough, Target and Walmart decided to do it on the same day, not to be losing out in their sales. And Amazon they announced on October 15th that they took in $3.5 billion for their small and medium-sized businesses over Prime. So I guess that's kind of supposed to make you feel better that your excessive spending helped out the small guy. But realistically, the number for Prime Day this year was 60% bigger than last year. I saw a meme that said, if you don't need something at full price, you really don't need it at half off either. But yet the marketing that we're inundated with is crazy. And people are really willing to, I know everybody's home and bored and whatever, but what is that doing? More stuff that we're bursting at the seams. What is that doing to our society, to our earth? What are you doing? Are you bringing in bring in one and get rid of one, or are you just bringing in more than one?
Okay, and true confessions. Yesterday, Amazon had a whole bunch of Kindle ebooks, like way reduced. So
you bought a bunch.
I'm like, well, no packaging. It goes right to my Kindle, which I don't have a Kindle. I have an Amazon Fire.
Okay.
I use it for an e-reader. And I'm only giving, is it Bezos or Bezos?
I think it's Bezos, but I could be wrong.
$2 for something that should have been 25. So
right.
I'm feeling like I'm sticking it to the man. is that
I wonder how much of that money the actual author gets. You're an author. How much money do you get out of a book that sells for $14.95? Do you get like $3 or?
Yeah, it really depends on Amazon.
Where does the rest of that go, to him or to Amazon?
So it depends on an ebook. See, there's no printing. And so otherwise, some of it would go to the printer. That's an interesting thought, because I do not have an ebook on Amazon, and so I'm not sure what the percentage cut is there for the author. So does the author get more? One would hope so.
Hope. Okay, so to go back to this consumer, so I follow this gentleman. I don't know if he's a gentleman or not. I follow this male. His name is Joshua Becker, and he writes a column called Becoming Minimalist. And he says, our world will lead you to believe your greatest contribution to society is the money that you spend. We are faced with 5,000 advertisements every day calling us to buy more. As a result, the average consumer debt equals $8,000 per household. That was actually lower than I thought. But shopping malls outnumber high schools. Americans spend more money on jewelry and shoes than they do on higher education. And 93% of teenage girls polled rank shopping as their favorite pastime. Recognizing the consumerist mindset of our world will not immediately remove you from it, but it's an absolutely essential step in the journey. So can we think about, who are we if we're not consumers?
And I would have thought that this last, what is it, 9 months since COVID hit would have caused a reevaluation because those teenage girls are not going out to shopping malls
No.
together, at
Mm-mm.
least not in Canada. I'm not sure what you folks are doing down in the US, but anyways, for, at least for a while, it was that kind of activity was shut down, and yeah, what happens then? But we know the numbers are that Amazon has been doing a huge booming business. Wow, this pandemic has been so good for Mr. Bezos. So apparently, we're not really ready collectively to reconsider.
It was kind of disappointing to me when I saw the numbers. I was like, I was kind of had my fingers hoping against hope. I was like, really? Because I didn't buy anything. And I will give you a pass on buying an ebook because it's not being shipped. It's not, you don't have packaging. Um, really it's digital. So
Okay,
other than you're lining his pockets a little bit, but hopefully you're helping
very
the
little.
author who spent a lot of time as well. So, but stuff, and I know we've talked about this a little bit before. Being at the stage in life where I'm looking at paring down, downsizing, and of course, a lot of people are not. But one of the things that I've learned in the last few years that's really helped me with this is I spend a couple months in California in the winter. And every year I take these two giant duffel bags with me of stuff. There's books in there, there's cosmetics, there's clothing, my running shoes, whatever, swimsuits, beach towels, whatever. And when I get to my B&B, I unpack everything. When I'm repacking at the end of it, I realize that I've only used like half of it. And then I come home to a house that I've been gone to for 4 months that's filled with stuff that I really didn't miss. Now, there's the seasonality of things too, because I'm leaving here in the fall. So I have to have some warm clothes. And should I want to stay for the winter, I guess I still need boots. But do I really need 6 pairs of boots? I mean, how much is enough? Is, less is less more.
I mean, I guess it's my Mennonite roots are showing because I'm shocked that people spend that much money on jewelry and shoes. That just clearly I've got my gold rings in. I'm not even wearing my wedding ring. I do have like fancier boots on today. I could, if only people could see them, but I've had them for 4 years or whatever. So I don't understand that mentality. So because you were in that world as a buyer, what is going on there? That is it like a insecurity and is it maybe it's an adrenaline rush that you buy it, but it doesn't last. That's what studies show. You get that hit and you have to do it again, right?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I think it's an addiction. I think shopping has become an addiction. It's a distraction and that's why you get that adrenaline rush. Is like it feels good until the bill comes in. Yeah, I mean, when I was in that world, well, first of all, I've also always been a discount shopper, and that's from maybe growing up in a blue collar area. My dad was a school teacher. My mom stayed at home until I was in high school, so we didn't have a lot of extra for stuff. My mom shopped Marshalls. Marshalls was a big thing in New England back then, and I don't know. Even in my most flush days, I like getting a discount. That gives me the adrenaline rush, right? I like to go to a thrift store. The thrill of the hunt is something for me.
Isn't that something you miss now over COVID? No thrift store shopping.
Yeah, no thrift store shopping. Yep. You can still do like garage sales though.
Oh, is that what you've been doing over the summer?
I am really purging stuff. I am
Mm,
really purging stuff, which is more the abundance thinking that it's financial. It's just a flow, right? You get
yeah.
rid of stuff, then leaves more space for things to come in. If you're hoarding it, I don't know, Mr.
Yeah.
Bezos, hopefully if you're listening, if you're hoarding it. um, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. I don't remember what your question was.
Well, it's just about what I don't know. I can't quite wrap my head around people
Spending more on
spending.
jewelry and shoes than higher education.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because they can never take your education away from you, but those pair of shoes are the heel breaks off and you're done, or you lose an earring or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. And then there's the whole fast fashion thing that's really kind of happened since I left the industry, because I've been out of the industry for 30 years, but the whole everything's disposable, you know. You buy something and you only expect to wear it one season and then you throw it away. I mean, have stuff in my closet that you don't want to know how long I've had it. But I've always thought, if you buy something good and you take care of it, then you can have it. You don't need to keep replacing it.
but that mentality isn't as prevalent as maybe we're showing our age. Because you can ask my girls. One thing I used to tell them is the sweetness of the low price doesn't last as long as the bitterness of the low quality.
I like that.
So,
I like
yeah, you
that.
just buy good quality, and
But
it's an
people want what they want, and they can't always afford the higher quality piece of.
right. That's why thrift stores are so great. Let's just put a plug in for, you get the you can get designer clothes if you look or really good quality stuff for the same or less than you'd pay at I don't know, is Marshall still a thing
Marshall's
or
is huge. Marshall's is huge. But even more so, I think. Well, so there's this online business called ThreadUp.
okay.
I have a girlfriend who, she actually, for $10 a month, you can buy a subscription to them, and they will send you a box every month. Or you can do it. You can ever do it however often you want. It's all recycled, all used clothing.
Uh-huh.
They're huge. I personally have not bought anything from them, but my friend Tina does. Shout out to Tina. And um, she pays $10 a month, and they'll send her a box that maybe there's 6 or 8 things. You tell them what sizes and what colors, and are you more casual or dressy or romantic frilly stuff, or classic stuff or whatever, and
Yeah.
they send it to you. If you don't buy anything, then you're out the $10. But if you buy something in that box, then they deduct the $10 from it, and they ship it for free. And whatever you don't want, assuming that you're keeping at least $10 worth of stuff, the
Hmm.
rest of it goes back for free. You can have new stuff all the time, new to you stuff all
Yeah.
the time, right?
Wow.
And
That's great. Even make money.
yeah, well, I don't know if you make money, but whatever. There's more than enough clothing in the world already.
Sort of like food, eh? It just needs to be distributed better. More than enough good clothing. But I mean, we've talked about this before, but one of my girlfriend's partners, buying secondhand was not something his family did,
Mm-hmm,
perhaps because they immigrated to Canada from a poor country,
mm-hmm.
and he's completely converted. He now will show you the great pants that he got for
That's nice. Yeah, that's well.
$5.
And that goes to show you, it's just a shift in
Of
in your
thinking.
mental state, right? And can we shift out of that more is more to less is more? Can we be like, I only need to bring one suitcase with me this year, right? Does it matter that I wear the same pair of pants once a week as opposed to once every 2 weeks or once every 3 weeks? I mean, I don't know. I think most of us, when we travel, that's one of the lovely things about traveling, is you get to the point where you're like, you want to be light. You want to be light. Okay, so then why come home and be heavy?
Years ago, my husband and I brought our bicycles and our panniers and our camping gear, and we traveled around Australia and New Zealand for 5 months by bike. We spent some time with friends in a car, but we spent most of that time traveling with. So he had two 4-packs, 2 on his front tires and 2 on his back tires. I just had the 2 on my back tire, and we'd pile our very hard mats. That we had no inflatable mats. They weren't a thing back then, back in the dark ages, before camping gear got very fancy. But my point, and we had cooking. We had a cook stove and cook pots, and we carried our food. So I totally get that. When you've had that experience, you kind of come back, and of course we've accumulated stuff, but I still remember the feeling of freedom that you really don't need rooms full of stuff. And like you say, it is so freeing. And maybe it's just because it's outside of our experience in this culture, this Western culture, that most people don't have that experience, either of camping or packing one suitcase when they're traveling. If you have an RV, you get to take more along, obviously, and that's not exactly a minimalist kind of experience. So some people travel that way, but it really is a reimagining life. Isn't that what we're talking about? That's what we're talking about with the election. That's what we're talking about with this topic, that this is a paradigm shift. And it doesn't mean that life is going to be less rich. In fact, what brings you joy? I mean, does a new pair of earrings bring one joy indefinitely? Maybe you'll get a hit of adrenaline, or your new pair of shoes, but
even if you get that hit initially, okay, so 6 months down the road, you want to get that up, you want to get a hit again. Maybe it's not 6 months, maybe it's 3 days. I mean, depending on who you are, right?
Exactly.
But what do you do with that other pair of earrings? I mean, I have a jewelry armoire. There's drawers. I mean, and yes, some of it was my grandmother's and some of it was my mother's. So there's things that tell a story that I'm keeping for sentimental reasons. And I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and she's like, well, why not just take a photo of it then? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I could do that.
If you don't
Instead of buying things.
Well, that's the thing with sentimental things. If you actually really don't display them or wear them or use them, take a picture, and you have digitally, or you can even make a photo album, and you can give it away. I've heard that before, and that's brilliant.
And when you get to our age, you got a lot of stuff, especially if you've never moved. I've moved a few times. When I got divorced and came across country, I mean, I got rid of a lot of stuff, but not enough, because when I got here, I had boxes sitting in my basement for 3 years that I had never opened, until finally I had an organizer come and go, okay, I need to get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah. It's hard. We get attached to things sentimentally, but they're things.
I think that's why people are hoarders, because it's comforting.
Well, certainly, I mean, my grandparents' generation, my mother's generation, my mother was young during the Depression, but her mother, I mean, she used to literally, she had the string, and she said all that stuff that you never know when you're going to use it, when you're going to need to use it, that they saved that kind of stuff. But now for most of us, especially here in the States, we've grown up where affluence has been everywhere, and it doesn't seem like we're doing it out of neediness. We're doing it out of just want and woohoo, and it's so destructive to the planet.
And I would say we're also doing it out of a spiritual emptiness.
Yeah, I would agree with, I would agree with that.
Filling a void that can't be filled with things. You're trying to, one, not you, but one is trying to, that compulsion to, we're spiritual beings, and there's so much that is unsatisfying about dominant culture. And we aren't taught how to fill ourselves up from the inside out. So we try to do it from the outside in, and it's pretty unsatisfying.
Yeah. So that's when it becomes an addiction. You're buying not for the new thing. You're buying for that hit of adrenaline. You're buying because it reinforces something in you that makes you feel, that gives you a lift, that makes you feel better about who you are. But it's such a treadmill.
Like any addiction.
Right. We're comparing ourselves to others all the time. Teddy Roosevelt had this quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy." If you pull into your driveway with your new Subaru, but the guy next door pulls in with a new Tesla, and that makes you feel less than, so your momentary joy now is dethroned because now you're comparing with what he has. I don't know.
Well, I guess the moral of that story is, and what we're saying today is, we're not setting ourselves up as perfect role models. But
No, far from it. No, far from it.
But that it's helpful to start questioning the dominant paradigm that we are here. Our contribution is to buy things. So, and
yeah, it feels like I'm just getting this hit right now, actually, of so one of the things that happened this week in the news was there's wildfires in Colorado, and I was really thinking about you because you've been so affected and had to evacuate your home and the area that you love, and so maybe you felt it more. This week, Rocky Mountain National Park, which is, I spent so much time in Rocky Mountain National Park when I lived in Colorado. We actually had used to go cross-country skiing there and slept out underneath the stars there. And there was this one glorious day that we were there in the winter. We'd been skiing and leaving just around sunset, and we coming down the mountain and turning by this field, and there were all these elk standing in this pasture. I stopped counting at like 250, and the sun was glowing against their white butts. It was like, stop the car. It still brings, like, I can feel the emotion. It was so incredible. And this week, the fire is raging through Rocky Mountain National Park. It will be forever changed, and the wildlife. It just breaks my heart. The wildlife. They may be having snow today, which could help dampen the fires. So, fingers crossed for that. But it was encroaching into this little town called Estes Park, which is where my husband and I actually had our wedding reception at the Stanley Hotel there. The town may be having to be evacuated. And I mean, it's a tiny little town. It's probably 10,000 people or whatever. And all at kind of the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park. So lots of stuff happening that we need to be paying attention to.
The earth is telling us it's time for this shift. And so if looking at what you buy or don't buy helps with that, it's something to consider. Do we have any good news? There was this Mark Carney, is the former governor of the Bank of Canada, and then he went over and became the governor of the Bank of England. And he's neither anymore. He's retired from both of them. But he was speaking at a conference organized by the Institute for Sustainable Finance at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. Shout out, that's where my daughter is doing her family medicine residency. But it says, it starts this article, and we can post it on our website. Mark Carney, the former central banker whose long list of titles includes United Nations Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance, says the world of business is going through a period of dynamic transition as it joins the battle against climate change. I'm skipping ahead. While ordinary Canadians may observe a few more electric cars on the road, a few more solar panels on roofs. The finance whiz outlined at a virtual conference on Thursday a multi-trillion-dollar realignment that is changing the way the world's money is invested.
Nice.
So that is good news. And to wrap up for our action and our sanity tip, I want to read what Marianne Williamson has written on her Facebook page.
Love her.
So one day ago, she wrote, "Hey everyone, this week will be intense and we can all play a part in keeping the energies calm." Of course, she's referring to the election, but that can be applied to just this time in general of reckoning, climate reckoning, climate emergency. So she says, 5 minutes of prayer and meditation every day, surrounding the election with light and love, calming the waters in everyone's heart, praying that the will of the people prevail. These are internal powers we should call upon in this run-up to the big day. And so if you are a praying person, and I am, and Rose is, and I connect with my spiritual guides, the beings of light, archangels, if you will, in my work as a soul detective, and I know how powerful that force is. And so I think, to conclude, is this okay if I read the win-win prayer? Because we want, that's what we want for everybody, and we'll post it on our website. And I want to give credit to Dr. Barbara Stone, who's my mentor and teacher in the soul detective work that I do. I'm going to change it a little bit, but I still want to give her credit. Creator of all, archangels, beings of light, you know all about what is going on in this situation in the United States around this election, and we do not. And so with that in mind, please, great creator of all, Archangel Michael and your legions of light workers, call in whatever other help is needed and do whatever is necessary to help everyone involved in this situation have an outcome that is for their highest good, to get free of the darkness that is creating the emotions of anger and fear and hurt, and get everyone connected to source or reconnected to source for a win-win situation for everyone. Thank you.
I would just add to that. I really work on visualizing and seeing what I want the future to look like, and just using that in my meditation. Visualizing the world that we want, what we want it to look like, and sitting there until you can feel the emotion of that moment. Thought and prayer is very, very powerful. I do believe that.
So be it. May it be so.
That's this week's episode of Earth Feels. Special thanks to singer-songwriter Kristen Hoffman for generously allowing us to use Song for the Ocean. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Children of the earth, I'm calling out. There's a mission for you and for me.